first started this a few years ago, I never could quite understand why there was a completely separate set of standards for folks that were involved in career and career aspirations, and another one for visual and performing arts. And it just seemed like when it came to the arts in particular, it felt really arbitrary and artificial. And the way to go, I think, in the future is to, as Steve indicated, think outside the box, think differently as to how we can be successful to as many different students as we possibly can. And the idea of career technical education and the visual and performing arts, especially in media studies, is one that I find extremely attractive, and it's one that this county office is really exploring in how to bring them together. And by the way, also conjoining with language arts, because as we all know, journalism is changing, okay? Print journalism, the old style, is gone, folks, really, as people adjust to new ways. So why not include in this new conglomerate career technical education, visual and performing arts, and language arts? Well, we're working on that. And today we have some very provocative thinkers and workers that are working on this project. But before they give us their CTE, Career Tech Education VAPA presentation, which we saw in San Diego and we thought was really provocative. Jeannine Flores is from Santa Clara. She's the coordinator for visual and performing arts and a good sidekick who appears at all the different meetings along with me, and a good friend. She's going to talk a little bit about what happens, what she's doing in Santa Clara. Jeannine.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Hamish, for inviting us down here to Monterey. I'm the Visual and Performing Arts Coordinator for Santa Clara County Office of Education. I am the A in STEAM and the head of the Artspiration Initiative to celebrate, educate, and advocate arts for all students in our county. And I loved hearing from Colleen and Audrey and Jackie about what's going on in the different regions. And I wanted to share what was going on in Santa Clara. So I have a different take too. So I'm new. Audrey started a couple days after I did. I began in August of 2016. And so last November we had our Marion Silker Conference. It was our 8th annual one. It's an arts integration conference that we partner with San Jose State to provide, as well as the San Jose Museum of Arts. And we focused on integrating music, art, theater, dance, and STEAM into the K through 8 classroom. We had over 400 teachers attend. Silker's conference is going to be on November 3rd and 4th, and we would love for you to come. There's flyers out in the front, and you can look it up on our website at artspiration.sccoe.org. And in March, we partnered with the Montalvo Arts Center to provide Arts in Your Classroom conference. And Sarah Brothers is here. She was one of our organizers for that event. This past year's theme was Art as Activism, Deconstructing the Classroom. It was very powerful. Our keynote speaker was Martha Diaz, and she's a hip hop artist, and she talked about how hip hop culture affected her schooling and has also now become her life career path. And the teachers took away lots of creative ideas on building community and student voice in their classroom. So next week is our Young Artist Showcase. We have over 60 students being recognized, and all their artwork will be incorporated into our permanent collection at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. We have pieces that are mixed media, ceramics, oil paintings, all the way to animation. Really glad to be able to celebrate and showcase our talented students. And then last July, we had the Creativity at the Core Summer Institute, and that is the California County Superintendent's Educational Services Association's Arts Initiative event. It's a mouthful. This year, it's going to be July 26th through 28th. We're also hosting it again this year. And you'll hear from educational leaders, teacher artists, art specialists, and inspiring speakers from across the state. And we're really focusing on the learning modules that each of the regions have developed. It will be a wonderful event. We hope you can come. And I'm really looking forward to hosting a barbecue reception day one. And we also are going to have a downtown San Jose intensive morning on day two, so we hope you can come. So since August, we've provided art and music integrated professional development in Santa Clara Unified. As Jeff and I did that, you'll meet him in a moment. We've been working with Gilroy Unified to develop their vision for their music program over the next 3 years. We're wrapping up developing a strategic arts integration plan for one of our elementary schools. It's Valley Vista and Mount Pleasant Unified School District. And we've been supporting our teachers through our secondary arts teacher network meetings. And we're currently trying to develop a strategic art plan for our entire county. And how can we better support the arts across our county? And what else? Arts with March is Arts Education Month. That was our campaign in March. We really tried to showcase what was going on in media arts, dance, theater, music, and the visual arts across our county. And we continue to celebrate all of our students and our teachers and develop relationships among our community. And I'm thrilled to be here and doing this work in Santa Clara. And again, I just want to thank Hamish for having us here. And I would like to introduce my colleague, Jeff Schmidt. He is our Career Technical Education Coordinator, and he's going to give you a little update on what arts, media, and entertainment is.
Thank you, Jeannine. By the way, you forgot to mention, on your VAPA stuff, you forgot to mention we have the largest showcase of student adjudicated artwork in the state of California at a California Office of Education. So anybody who's in Santa Clara County, come by our offices and see. You can't walk in our offices without seeing student art everywhere. And in the last few years, we've partnered with our CTE sort of digital media realm, and we've actually used the virtual reality concepts of augmented reality, actually. And there's a thing called Auras or Aurasma, and we've embedded student videos into their artwork in the last few years. So if you come to our offices and you download the app, the Aurasma app, which is a free app, you can point your device at the student artwork, and the student will actually pop out of their painting or their drawing and talk to you and tell you a little bit about their art, which is really exciting. We also recently, Jeannine, you actually put a bunch of art up at the San Jose airport, which is really super exciting for the students. Who, people from all over the world are coming through and seeing that artwork, and we're hoping to embed student videos into that artwork as well. There's a lot also happening into the arts, media, entertainment world in Santa Clara County. By the way, we are a very large county. We have 31 school districts. We have a 32nd school district, which is all CTE. It's called the Metropolitan Education District, which is a purely career technical education programs that take students from other districts. We have nearly 300,000 students in Santa Clara, so it's a little bit different situation than some of the people in the room that talked earlier with the scale and the size. But we're super excited to be part of Region 5 because there's a lot happening, as you can see. There's a very, very passionate part of California where there's lots of art coming out of it. And it gives our students a voice, and I think that's really, really important. In the last couple of years, I've been seeing some things happening in the art world with the CTE world where we kind of are melding the worlds together. Partly because there's some funding and some grant funding available for CTE where a lot of the art teachers that do a lot of stuff outside of school that might be self-employed, might be doing a little volunteer work, might be helping out here and there and interning or externshipping. Those teachers actually qualify for a career technical education teaching credential in many cases. So I'm seeing a huge increase in teachers wanting to move out of the boundary of being a VAPA teacher and increasing their ability to teach also CTE courses. So if you're not familiar with that world, we have the VAPA world, which is the Visual and Performing Arts world, which is a separate type of teaching credential. It's the traditional academic types of teaching credential. We also have the career technical education teachers, which are in the world of art in California, are the arts, media, entertainment industry sector. So when you see the terms AME and VAPA, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about marrying those two worlds so we can talk about the careers that are available in art as well as the real true artistic techniques that are necessary in art. So it's really exciting for us as Jeannine and I have been able to partner and to try to figure out ways to bring both those worlds together. And Hamish had mentioned earlier this concept of standards, and we've heard that come up several times today. And there are a lot of things happening in education that are changing the standards, so we're going to talk about the standards. But first, we want to talk a little bit about our team. We're part of a STEAM team at the Santa Clara County Office of Education.
This is my A.
She's the A.
A.
And CTE is actually all over STEAM. We do have a T, but for a while I was sort of the T guy. But career technical education actually, I mean, all 15 industry sectors contain digital media, and they contain elements of design and art. So we really feel like these are really important worlds to combine. So some of the things that she mentioned that we have done together, we've done professional development for teachers. For example, the Santa Clara School District has brought us in as a team to work with both their VAPA and visual and performing arts teachers as well as their career technical education teachers, even if they weren't art teachers. So what we got to do is combine all of our ideas and create a year-long professional development experience for those teachers. And we brought in all these different standards from different places. So in a few minutes, we're going to start with kind of showing you those standards. We've also been able to highlight some of our showcase professional development offerings from the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And we do, not only do we got to do districts and do specified custom delivery of PD, we also have a lot of events at our county office, of course, like conferences and workshops. But we have some sort of signature programs. One of those is actually a marriage of VAPA and CTE. It's called the Digital Storytelling Certificate Program, and it's a year-long PD program with 2 cohorts. We've got an administrative cohort and a teacher cohort, or TOSAs, and we want those leaders to work together all year and learn skills, and they can gain certificates in a graphic novel, and documentary film, animation, as well as photojournalism. And we bring in community partners like the Walt Disney Family Museum and the Pulitzer Center, and we bring in experts to teach the teachers first, and then we work with the teachers to help them develop lessons. The teachers implement those lessons. They have thought partners and reviewers, other teachers. They review the process. They show us examples of the student work, and then they reflect on it. So at the end of it, they've gone through the period. Not only have they learned new digital media techniques, but they've applied it, and their students have learned it. Would you like to add anything to that story?
That was great. Yes. We have the digital design thinking module as well that just started up.
That's right. And we have a project-based learning practicum that's year-long. So with all this professional development, Jeannine and I started learning that, you know, there's a lot we can do to not just art teachers, but there's actually a lot of art we can teach any teacher. So we're going to show you an example of a PD that we did down in San Diego at the Arts, Media, and Entertainment VAPA Leadership Institute, where we modeled a lesson that any teacher at any grade level probably could do. There might be a few kindergarten, first grade classes that may not be appropriate for this, but whenever I say that, teacher shows me wrong. So what we would like to do is talk to you about this, walk you through it, and kind of, here's what we did with the group of teachers. So there's a couple things we're going to ask some of you in the room to actually do with us, but for the most part, we're going to show you what we actually did with a different group of teachers.
Awesome.
So that being said,
First thing, we're going to go over the standards. We went over the CTE Arts, Media, Entertainment standards. We also addressed the National Core Arts standards because California is shifting to that now that the grant fund or the money to get the handbook and the standards written here in California has been approved, and as well as California Visual and Performing Arts Framework. So you wanted me to go over the National Core Arts standards briefly? You want to open that up? We're going to click on the link and see if it goes. So we love the National Core Arts standards because they unify all of the disciplines, and it also includes the media arts. And I also love it because at the bottom of the page is you can customize your own handbook. So, well, I don't care, Jeannine, about 5th grade. I'm a 4th grade teacher and I just want to do dance. You can click on that. You can tell them what grade level you want to do, what discipline you want to do. There's also something called the EUs and the EQs, which I love. That's essential understandings and essential questions. And then you can also pick what strand you want. Under music, it has instrumental. It could also be classroom music, composition, and then you just click on Create Your Own Handbook. You can download it, you can save it to your computer, and you can reference it at any time. The standards are creating, presenting, responding, and connecting. This ties in so well with the Common Core and having students speak to the process of creating the arts.
and to add to those, on the left of our screen right there, you see the cover of the Arts, Media, and Entertainment CTE standards. And all those CTE standard booklets have little bubbles underneath the title. In this case, you see 4 circles underneath that little film reel. And that tells us that there's 4 different pathways of standards in the arts, media, and entertainment world. So if I click on that, it'll take us to the website. And the California Department of Education website, you can download the standard booklets in any industry. As we go through it, you'll see every pathway. There's 4 pathways, and it starts with the arts, media, entertainment sector description, what they call the anchor standards. And then you'll see the design, visual, and media arts pathway. And then you'll see a second pathway here, which is performing arts pathway. And then you'll see the third pathway, which is right here, production and managerial arts. And then finally, the game design and integration pathway. But what's so exciting about the CTE standards is after you get through the pathways on every single one of the industry sectors, no matter where you're looking, whether it's art or not, you're going to find this amazing tool here. And this is very exciting.
It's great.
It's called the Academic Alignment Matrix. And unfortunately, it's going to look sideways to you because of the way the book is printed. But it's right here. And I'm just going to pull up this first little side. So you kind of have to cock your head sideways here. And you'll notice that if you've already identified the pathway you're teaching in, on the left column here, going down the side of the page, it starts with the Common Core Language Arts standards. You'll see the math standards, statistics, geometry, algebra. You'll see science, NGSS, the next generation science standards. And all this is built into these booklets. So we just wanted to make sure you knew they were there.
All the research is already done for you. I love that.
That's
right?
So that's exciting. We have standards that are already integrated, a tool that most people don't even know exists that tells you how to integrate all this stuff. And on our STEAM team, our motto is integration, imagination, and innovation, because we really believe that art gives us the ability to do that. And we've seen a lot of people bring in art as an integrated tool, and sometimes it's just to get students to be engaged and creative, and we think that's great. But when you can take it beyond art for the sake of art and actually teach the art technique and the skill, if you're integrating art, that's where we really want to see things happening. So we're going to show you an example of how we did that at the Arts, Media, Entertainment Leadership Institute in San Diego. So put on your student hats for a moment, and we're going to pretend that we're your teachers. And we're going to start out with a language arts protocol using a digital image as complex text. And that's one of the new key shifts from the Common Core standards. We can use digital media like videos and single images as complex text.
As well as music.
Music.
Right? A script.
That's right. Any form of digital art. And what that can do is really get the students to focus on something. And you can use this at the beginning of a class, for example, and to get students to think and to collaborate and have a collaborative conversation. So we're going to walk you through this real quick. It's called the Observe, Wonder, and Infer Protocol. We're going to ask you to first observe. You're not allowed to say what's happening. You're only allowed to say what you see in the picture. Then we're going to ask you to make some questions of what it makes you wonder. And then we'll take you to the third step, which is going to infer. You're going to tell us what's happening in the picture. You guys ready?
Woohoo!
Okay, so once again, we're going to ask you to make some observations. We're not going to go through this entire protocol, but we did put people in groups, and they had to write down 3 observations and 2 wonders before we went to the next step. Here's the photograph. We're just going to let you look at this for a second. So I'm just going to be quiet for 15 seconds, and those of you that are here in the audience,
It's really hard for him.
take a look at this picture. It's hard for me to be quiet. And we're only looking for observations, and maybe a couple of brave people that will yell at me and say, hey, I see this.
Yeah.
You guys ready? Okay, what do you see in this picture?
They see a sheep in a car.
Okay, good. I'm not going to say what makes you say that because that's pretty obvious. But this would be an opportunity for the teacher to say, hey, show me some evidence. Where do you see that? What else do you see?
Graffiti in a couple different languages.
Graffiti in
That's right.
multiple languages.
That's very observant.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
One more.
Litter.
Litter.
That's great.
Good.
Excellent. The next step would be to write down some questions you have. So what does this photograph make you wonder? So in the sake of time, just go ahead and throw them all out.
Why is there just this one guy?
Why is there just one guy in the picture?
How did he get the sheep in the car?
How did he get that sheep in the car? That's a great question. Any other questions? Does anybody know, what is he doing?
Is he smoking?
I don't know. Is he smoking? Is he eating a maple bar? I don't know. So imagine this was a class full of, you fill in the blank, grade level. And right now the students are in the palm of your hands. So we did a real fun little energetic activity called the Snowball Protocol, where we had people write down, tell me what's happening in this picture. So they had to come to consensus and write down exactly what's happening. And then we had them wrinkle it up and throw it in the air, and everybody had to pick up other snowballs and read them. So you're getting all this information, and there's energy in the room, and people are throwing things. And in a very short amount of time, you get to hear 5 or 6 students' others' ideas, as well as sharing your own. And after that, we debrief. So we ask people to tell us what's happening in the picture.
Yeah.
Well, I want to share with you, this is a great little protocol. It uses digital media, but it's a language arts protocol, so I think it's deserved crediting the site. This comes from the New York Times, what's going on in this picture, so I want to show it to you really quick. As a teacher, they put these up every once in a while, and they actually don't tell you what's going on in the pictures for a couple weeks, so even the teacher doesn't know. Students are encouraged to go onto this website and post their blogs on the blog to say, what do they see? What do they observe? This happens to be from February 13th, 2017. Here's some questions that were asked of the students. What's going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can you find? And you'll actually see some students' responses. But I'm going to tell you what's going on in this picture. It's right here. After grueling traffic at the Kalandia checkpoint, a young man enjoyed a cigarette in his car as traffic finally cleared on the last evening of Ramadan. He was taking home a sheep for the Eid celebration in the West Bank. So that gives you an opportunity to talk about civics, to talk about culture, to talk about news, current events.
Current events, yep.
And that's all just depending on the photograph that you choose. So a lot of photographs could be used in this protocol, and it's a really fun way to get people's attention.
So we did that to frame their activity. So we gave them a photojournalism assignment, and the content for the visual and performing arts was the rule of thirds for photography. And some of the parameters is they could only show one person in the frame, and that they were going to write a caption tying in some language arts.
That's right. So we were really limited on time. In a real context, we would talk a little bit more about photojournalism and get students to see maybe some examples of real photojournalism, and it gets their emotions maybe running a little bit. But remember, we were about an hour presentation. We had real teachers in the room, and so we gave them that restraint. It was real quickly. This is a simple photojournalism assignment. You get one picture. It needs to have a human in it. You're going to need to use the rule of thirds, which is an element of composition, of visual composition, and you need to do it and post it on the internet. We did all that, and the teachers actually did this, and we have proof that we're not making this up. So that's what we asked them to do. So we had to teach them the rule of thirds. So again, when we integrate art, we don't want to do it just for the sake of art. We want to try to make sure they're learning a real good skill. And in the 21st century teaching world, it's important that you're collecting evidence of the student learning so that you can show that they mastered the content. So we wanted to collect artifacts. So first we taught them the rule of thirds. If you're not familiar with it, that's the rule of thirds. You put a grid over an image, and where the grids intersect, it's very stimulating to your brain. It's where your brain picks up the most information, and it makes a more pleasing image. So we did this lecture. We showed them a video.
Yeah.
They got it. We answered their questions, and then we send them out on their own with their cameras.
So let's show them the work that our team did.
If you were down there in San Diego, you would have seen a bunch of teachers running around frantically taking pictures with one another. And when they came back, we had them collaborate and post it on a Padlet, which is a simple free digital poster board, if you will. And here's some of the images that were taken that day. And they have very simple captions on them.
And using this in the classroom, the students can have their name on it. You can have the link to their content. Here we ask them to write a quote on the image they took, a caption.
So you see some of those
That's what it was. So that was our work that they did.
That's right. So, and that was really fun because they came in, they were all energetic, they posted their material, they shared with one another.
Immediately got to see what everybody else did.
And then we wanted them to actually talk about the value of what they just did and debrief the experience a little bit, but to make sure that they were comfortable with that, and if we were dealing with students, we wanted to give them some sentence frames to bring in a little bit more of the language arts. So we provided these sentence frames, and we wanted each of the participants to talk about their piece with their partners. So we can take a look at those.
I developed these for EL support, but it's also just a great conversation starter for those hesitant students, like they don't know where to start addressing their work. So they just gave them, they didn't have to use all of them. They could just pick one or two, or you could ask them just to do one, number 5.
That's right, and you can flip this. It also gives, not only does it give a student the sort of the ability to talk about their work, which they're not that comfortable not necessarily doing, but also gives them a chance to ask some questions like this too. Like, tell us about your piece. What were the materials you used, or whatever the questions might be. So I wanted to stop a second and talk about that moment to get students to talk in the classroom. When you can stop, break up the instruction and just give it a few minutes or a couple minutes, 30 seconds, whatever, to let the students talk. We call that a collaborative conversation. I mean, it's an academic language-based conversation. It's not social language. So when that happens, if you have 2, 3, 4 students in a table, grappling with some content, trying to give an answer, trying to come up with a solution, what's going to happen at that table when you're not there, or if you happen to be walking around listening, students are asking questions they're not going to ask in front of the class because they're not as embarrassed. Students are hearing other students talk using the academic language, hearing their thoughts. They're hearing other students' thought processes. They're also discovering their own opinions and hearing their own thought processes as they're explaining their thoughts. There's a lot of language stuff happening there. It's really deep and really rich, and it helps the learning go really deep. So breaking up your instruction and having moments of collaborative conversations is a great way to integrate ELA and ELD into your art
That's that
classroom.
speaking and listening part of our Common
That's
Core
right.
standards, and it helps a lot of our language learners find the language by speaking it before we would ask them to write a reflection at the end if that was like the follow-up.
When we were done with this part of the project with the teachers in San Diego, we asked them to take off their student hat and put back their teacher hat back on. And we wanted to find out what standards could you actually identify in that simple photojournalism lesson that you just did. They actually just did and completed and posted and everything. So we put giant have you seen those giant Post-it notes? They're like this big. We put them on the walls.
Yeah.
We put one for ELA and ELD. We put one set for the VAPA standards.
National Core Art Standards and the CTE AME standards.
And we gave them literally like 2 minutes, and we put them in groups, and we said, find the standards and write them on the board. And I wish we had a picture of that, but we don't. I'm going to go to that for a second, but that's the one thing we didn't do is take a picture of that. We literally had 80 standards identified
There's a
from
package
that one little photojournalism thing. They found basically things from the language arts like making a claim basing it on evidence. That's what they did with the observe, wonder, infer. Digital media, taking an image, the rule of thirds, composition. It just goes and goes and goes. And they were able to find them really quick and write them on the Post-it notes. And so it was no problem. It showed the teachers that finding standards is simple, and it reinforces the what are we teaching our students and why, and how do we know they've learned it talk that we're always doing in our PLC work. So that was exciting to see what they were able to come up with.
And then we created a website just to have all the resources on one spot. And this was through the new Google Sites, very user-friendly, very easy to create. And we just,
And it won't let us open.
and we'll share the slide deck with you. You can go check it out anytime, no worries.
Okay, that's okay.
But yeah, just as a follow-up. So this was the slides where we talked about the different standards, our pink Post-it notes.
That's right. And then we debriefed. We wanted the teachers to tell us what it was like for them to go through this experience. Did they have any aha moments? We rushed them through it, and we wanted to hear what it felt like. So we got some great feedback. Some teachers were very surprised that how well the National Core Art Standards with the new media element, the CTE standards, the VAPA standards, they all work together, and how easy it was to pull in some very crucial English language arts parts and the ELA, ELD to bring out that language element.
And I think some of the confusion on the CTE AME side is that it's a high school standard, and that,
right.
that introducing it into a middle school and elementary school program would be not necessary. What do you think, Jeff?
No, I think that CTE is K-12, and we really need to look at it that way, because I see a lot of great things happening in the arts in every grade level, but we don't always say, oh, you're really good at that. You could do that for a living. When we just say that, one little phrase, sometimes that's what it takes to get a student to know what they want to be when they get out of high school. So we really appreciate all your time and appreciate being invited to this event. And if you have any questions, please look at the Artspiration website at this SCCOE webpage, as well as the CTE website.
Yeah.
And thank you all.
Thank you.